Hey guys, welcome back to the deTour podcast. I'm your host, Dan Jones, and we've got another special edition as we preview the World Championships for both the men and the women. I'm joined, as always, by four-time National Road Race champion from Australia, Johnny Trevorrow, the voice of cycling, Phil Liggett, and Team BikeExchange rider and dual Olympic bronze medalist, Sam Bewley. Welcome to the show, fellas. I'll start with you, Phil. You must be pretty excited for another World Championships.
Well, I'm very excited, but I'm going to watch it like everybody else from afar. But what the best thing about this week at the World so far has been the crowds, the return to world-class cycling, to the best country in the world for cycling. There's no doubt about that, Belgium. And I'll tell you, this weekend is going to be superb. And it's on the modern times, it's on television somewhere in every country. So we're all going to enjoy it. But I'm rather sad I'm not there, I'll be quite honest. I was there as a commissaire back in 1975, and I've got great memories of the professional road race when I was in I drew the number one car as the commissaire that provided us with the world champion of the day, which was Henny Kuiper. And I was in the first car behind him as he crossed the lines as the commissaire. Sat alongside me was my hero of the day, which was Jan Janssen, the former winner of the Tour de France, who seemed to ride his professional life wearing those dark glasses and never have a hair out of place, no matter how hard he tried. So great memories for me, but learning how to be a commissaire at a world level in Belgium was special too. They were so helpful. And the crowds are manic.
Were you a hothead, Phil, as a commissaire? Were you like really?
No, I've got one or two friends. They are friends now, but I did disqualify them as pros in the bike races. Yeah. And I had to tell one, a very famous pro, to leave. He came back to literally give me a mouthful. And I said, look, leave the car now and it's all forgotten. If you stay 1 second longer, you're out of the race. And he left the car and we became very good friends after he retired.
Oh, the passive-aggressive threat. That would have got the chocolates. And what about you, Bills? Have you ridden many world championships over the years?
A few, not many, not a lot, actually. I think it's like 3 or 4 maybe.
Not a lot, 3 or 4.
That's not bad.
Not as many as I haven't done, I suppose.
But is there something special about, obviously, the World Championships from a rider's perspective and the mentality going into the Worlds?
Yeah, well, the Worlds is awesome because the coolest thing about the Worlds is that you represent your country. You know, you spend all year representing your trade team, whether it's Team BikeExchange or whoever it is, and you represent them proudly. But you only get the chance once a year, really, to represent your country. If you're a Kiwi or an Aussie or a POM, you get the chance to do it at the Commonwealth Games every couple of years as well in the Olympics, but not so often. So yeah, it's always a proud moment to put the black strip on for us. And I got an All Black shirt on today because the All Blacks are playing at the moment.
What's the score?
I'll give you an update at the end of the game. Doesn't matter.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. What about you? I was going to say, what about you, Iffy? Like, how many worlds did you do? And knowing your preparation for the Olympic Games, you probably didn't maximise your opportunities when you did ride.
Yeah, whatever. I rode a couple as an amateur, and I think I rode 4 as a pro. But great memories, and it is pretty special. As Bill's just said, you know, you get a chance to ride for your country in a world championship in the top level of sport. It's pretty special, and there's something really special about the rainbow jersey as well. You know, that's why it's just so sought after, because to wear that, you get to wear that for the whole year, and it's something, you know, amazing. But and this is a special one. I mean, this is 100 years. This is the centenary of the World Championships, and most fitting that it's in Flanders. So I'm looking forward to tonight with the women's and tomorrow. It's going to be something special.
Well, I didn't go on the last episode because there was 4 people and it's hard to navigate, but we're going to go all out. And I think we're going to go live now to Belgium, the heart of cycling, and to get an insight on the atmosphere. And we're joined by the fellas now, and that is, of course, Richard Moore from the Cycling Podcast, Bernard Moorman and Jamie Anderson, the proprietors of the Flandern Hotel. Fellas, welcome to the deTour. I'll start with you, Richard. You're obviously one of the top journalists in cycling in the world. and you've got a podcast that goes pretty well as well. What's the atmosphere like on the ground there in Belgium?
The atmosphere here in the Flandrian Hotel is very nice indeed. I've been enjoying their hospitality. But yeah, I was in Bruges at the start of the week for the time trials, and I think, building up to that, there was a lot of uncertainty about just how many people would be there, because it really feels like things are opening up here a bit. But the crowds were amazing. And then Liv in yesterday, day before, huge crowds. So I think it's going to be a tremendous weekend. And after 2 years of the races in Flanders happening behind closed doors, it's really felt like a bit of a triumph already. And I think, as Phil says, Flanders is the place for bike racing. So it's going to be a fantastic weekend. Just not as many international visitors, obviously, but you don't really need them in Flanders because there are so many locals here who are out on the roadside.
Yeah.
Jamie, we've obviously got the AFL Grand Final on in Australia here, and that is one of the biggest sporting events. Does this feel like the Grand Final for Belgium this weekend?
Yeah, Dan, it's amazing. The fast has broken. People have missed their cycling over the last 18 months, and now with this week happening, the atmosphere is just electric. Bernard and I, we were in Antwerp yesterday for the start of the under-23s race, and just the numbers of people at the start, and then the helicopters flying low over the city. The atmosphere is just incredible here right now. And I mean, even this week at the junior women's time trial, there were crowds 4 deep at the finish line. So it's amazing.
Bernard, just last one from me is obviously there was a big standout. We're going to do an episode with you guys on Tuesday night. We're going to be talking about African cycling, but Gourmet, who ran second in the under-23s, I mean, what an amazing story.
Oh, yeah. And the way he did it, if you see the helicopter coverage of the last 300 meters, the guy is 20th, 300 meters from the finish. And then the way he wins the sprint, so to speak, to get second is unbelievable. And I think a lot of people forget that he is the only one that in a junior race beat Evenepoel 3 years ago. So this is a guy with quite a future in front of him.
Yeah.
Well, we've got some big brains in the world of cycling on the deTour today. So we want to get some predictions. I'll start with you, Bills. Who do you think is going to win the men's road race title this year?
Well, it is obviously some clear favourites. But I think the top favourite's not going to win. I think winning in Belgium is very, very difficult. It's the races, they're unpredictable in a sense. Obviously, the style of the modern era of cycling is unpredictable in its own way. But racing on that course in Belgium, it's quite tricky. It's quite technical. The Belgians say they're all in for Wout van Aert, which is probably correct. But at the same time, I don't think you can play with one favourite in a race like this. You need to run a bit of a quick step model, I suppose, like they do in the classics. So to contradict all of that, my favourite, who probably hasn't got the team to do that, my favourite's Peter Sagan, actually, out of the blue. Peter Sagan or Casper Asgreen.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm interested in that one, Sam. I must say, I put Peter Sagan down as my rank outsider to surprise us all, and you've gone for him as the race favourite. Oh, that's. I'll just rewrite my notes now.
Come on, Phil. If you disagree, who's going to win it?
Well, I think you might be right. He's just the sort of guy to flick us like that, Peter. And he's on form now. He's won his own home tour this week without winning a stage, or that last week or whenever it was. My heart wants Alaphilippe to win because he's my favourite cyclist at the moment, and I made a commercial with him and got to like him as a person as well. So I'd love comments. And he's been indeed, and he's been a very, very good world champion too. He's wore that jersey with pride, so it would be nice to extend his lead. But if the Belgians ride as a team, then I think Van Aert will win. But the question is, will they ride as a team? Evenepoel is rather concerned about Eddie Merckx's comments over the last couple of days about saying he's not a team rider, and I think to a degree he isn't. He's a very individual rider. We'll see how he comes out on the day tomorrow. But either way, I'll guarantee, we saw it with the junior race and with the under-23s. the course is made for attacking riding, and when you've got crowds all the way around it, these guys want to perform. So we are going to see one heck of a showdown out there. It's going to last best part of 6 hours and a bit. So favourites very rarely win the world titles because they're heavily marked, but we'll see. And nobody knows what Mathieu van der Poel is going to do. He messed his back up, yes. He said he wants to ride. He's not going to come and make a disgrace of himself. So I wonder.
No, we better hear from Miffy because this is a detour record. He's gone about 9.5 minutes without saying
this is a detour record.
Yes. What do you think, John?
Well, I think Van der Poel.
Hang on. Can I say something?
Yeah, cut him off. Perfect.
On your bills,
Yes, John.
Van der Poel is my rank outsider. I think if he could do anything, but I'm going to go with the favourite. I think Wout van Aert can win. He will need Van der Poel to ride, unlike Eddie says, as a support man. I don't remember Eddie being
hang on, Van der Poel is on the different team to Wout van Aert.
No, I said Van der Poel. Van der Poel. I said.
Oh, that sound like Van der Poel. Yeah. Sorry, John.
Van der Poel is my rank outsider.
This is great. John, it's Wout van Aert.
That's it. Wout van Aert. John.
I only messaged 6 times to the detour to try to get this pronunciation right, John. So we still got fingers crossed.
John has been saying it this way so long that Wout is going to change his name by default.
Okay, John, let's clear the slate. Let's start again.
Yes, off we go, John.
Wout van Aert. Wout van Aert will win. Van der Poel will need to ride in support, although Eddie doesn't think he can. But Eddie was never a great support rider himself, so I don't know what he's carrying on about. And I think Van der Poel will do that and be the key to Belgium taking it home, and the whole country will erupt.
Yeah. So that's the Belgian team doomed.
Yeah, that's it. He's got the iffy kibosh. Richard,
if you. Sorry, we can ask Richard.
Sure, okay.
My real fancy is Sonny Colbrelli. He is on fire this year, and he's a big danger, and he'll get over these Flanders hills. And, of course, I think he would be the best finisher if he got his chance. What do you think of that, Richard?
Well, we were looking for clues yesterday in the Under-23 race in particular about how the men's race might unfold. Because the beauty of the World Championship is nobody's ever raced on the course before. So there's no kind of blueprint for it. I was watching with somebody yesterday who thought, based on the Under-23 race, that it would be quite a big group would come to the finish on Sunday. I've got this fantasy of Alaphilippe, Van Aert, and Van der Poel getting away together, the three of them, like we saw in Flanders in 2020, and kind of unfinished business. None of them hits a motorbike, and we get a finish between them. But I think, I was speaking to Thomas van den Spiegel yesterday, who's sort of running the show here for Flanders Classics. He thinks Van der Poel has been bluffing the last few weeks. There's nothing wrong with him. He wouldn't be here if he wasn't capable of winning, and he thinks he'll win. If he isn't fit and on form, this course is absolutely made for Van der Poel. So if he is capable of winning, I think he's perhaps the favourite, and I think he's in a team where they're all definitely riding for him. Van Aert, there is this question with the Belgian team. But having said that, Van der Poel is a different kind of rider, isn't he? And he's somebody who wins races on his own. So if he goes up the road with 30 kilometres to go on his own, and Van Aert's in a group behind, that puts the Belgian team in a very strong position.
I was going to ask you, Richard, from a journalistic point of view, who gets the more cut through with stories? Eddie Merckx, because every time he says something, it seems to piss riders off, or Patrick Lefevre, because every time he talks, it pisses everyone off.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, but I don't know if Patrick Lefevre's comments get the same attention in Belgium as they do elsewhere. You know, I think in the certainly the English-speaking world, there's a lot of criticism of Lefevre for his comments. I don't get the sense that it's the same. You guys can maybe confirm or deny that. Yeah. The same in Belgium. I think the one incident recently that has gotten a lot of bad headlines was his drunken appearance the other night on telly here in Belgium. I think it was Sunday night.
Yes.
and he was that got quite a lot of attention. But some of his other comments kind of passed without comment here, as far as I can tell.
But there's also, I mean, Bernard and I were talking over breakfast this morning. The silent factor actually in the Eddie Merckx and the discussions being going on is Lefebvre, actually, because Belgium wants a world champion, that's for sure. But Lefebvre wants a quick step world champion. So that throws all kinds of dynamics. So maybe you can speak to that, Bernard, because I think that's something that hasn't been spoken about a lot, that Lefebvre wants a quick step world champion. And whether that's Belgium, someone else, he wants a world champion in the quick step team.
Yeah, I think this is the base of everything, because every manager of a team wants to have the rainbow jersey in his team next year, and also the sponsors want that. So that's not news, but Lefebvre is the most outspoken guy on that fact. He will just plain simple throw it out there, and he will throw that out for sure to the riders. He will tell all his riders from all his countries, hey guys, next year that jersey stays here. So you will understand, even if it's Evenepoel getting in a break, the only thing Evenepoel will remember from his manager is saying like, that jersey stays with us. So let's say there is a break of 8-9 guys. Chances are that there is 9 or 10 different nationalities, but 4 or 5 quick step guys. So what do you think is going to happen? Of course, those guys are going to talk because they need to live with each other every day. They're every guy's bread. So, but in Belgium, since Belgium, rightfully said by Jamie in the article in Forbes, it's a religion here. So here, winning a race gives you a status. So we want this to stay here, and then press makes all kinds of things out of what was said from Evenepoel and from Eddie Merckx. Because are we sure that what is seen in the press is really what the intention was of what the two guys were saying? We don't know. But what is said comes out of the fact that normally you race as a team, as a club team, and tomorrow they race as a country, which is a completely different dynamic.
Hey, Bills, in the races, is there a lot of team support when you're on the road, or is it literally, I'm running from a country now, get stuffed?
I think there's probably circumstances where that happens. For example, last year in Imola, when Alaphilippe was away and Roglic was in the group with Van Aert, Roglic copped a lot of slack from the Belgians for not riding for Van Aert in that situation. But I think the intention was to do that. He was just on the limit. So in a circumstance like that, I think Roglic knows, okay, I'm not going to win the sprint if it comes back. Van Aert's going to win. He works for me all year in the trade team. I'll pull some hard turns here. I think in those circumstances, yes, it happens. In general, I think not. I think cyclists are loyal to the shirt they're wearing at the time. Obviously, if you're riding for Quickstep, or you're riding for BikeExchange, or whoever it may be, you're loyal to those people. When you're riding for your country, you're loyal to your country, and you're loyal to your countrymen. And I think that just comes down to national pride. Everybody's proud to represent their country in whatever it is. If you're somewhere else on the other side of the world and you've got your shirt on for your country, then you're loyal to those people. So I think, generally speaking, it's not a big thing, but in certain circumstances, I'm sure it happens.
Now, if your biggest claim to fame is you designed the course for the 2010 World Championships here in Geelong, what do you make of the actual course structure? Because if you look at the profile, it looks like an irregular heartbeat with someone with coronary heart disease. I've never seen a profile like that before in my life.
I love it, actually. The men's race tomorrow it's a bit confusing. They start in Antwerp, come down to Leuven, do a couple of laps, go down, do the Flandrian circuit, come back, do a few more laps of Leuven, then go back and do the Flandrian circuit, and then come back and finish in Leuven. So it's all over the place. I hope they don't make a mistake and sit in the wrong lap. But no, fantastic. It's a brilliant course. It looks really, really tough, but that short, punchy hills, and they suit different types of riders. I can tell you now, Caleb Ewan, I don't know that he has the form to do it, but Caleb, in his best form, would be a possibility. You put him into it with a chance in this. He loves those punchy climbs, and he's proven to be able this year, especially to get over them. But I don't know how well he's come back.
Richard, is there any hype around the Aussies over there in Belgium, or we don't get a mention?
No, actually, I mentioned Caleb Ewan in our podcast this week, a rival podcast.
We're not rivals, mate. We're not rivals. We're all friends, and we would really appreciate if you mentioned the deTour on the side of the podcast.
I mean, also Michael Matthews. You know, the races has been most compared to his Brabantse Pale, where he's ridden very well. And Michael Matthews on form could ride very well. I don't know how he came out of the Vuelta. You know, he looked pretty unhappy at the Vuelta. Not to get a stage win, which is what he was there for. And I don't, you know, in a small group, he could be a real strong contender. But there's not a lot of elevation. It's 2,500 meters of elevation. But it's these repeated hard efforts up steep climbs. It's very different to other races with similar elevation. You know, it's a completely different type of effort, and those efforts could really take their toll. Could certainly blunt the speed of someone like Caleb Ewan if he is in good form and still there. It's hard to see him winning, really, because I think it's going to be a real wearing down process. I rode the Sportive on Thursday actually, which was 100 kilometers, and it was advertised as 850 meters of elevation, but actually it was 1,100 meters. So there could be a few surprises as well, I think.
Yeah. I lived in that. I lived in that area when we first moved to Belgium. I lived in the area of Vlaams Brabant, and that area around Overijse, Holdenburg, where the course is going. I mean, some of those kickers are 16, 18%. So they may not be especially long, but if you're doing those climbs repeatedly, it's really going to take a lot out of the guys. And particularly when you get that sort of gradient, it's when the really punchy guys can try to create those gaps. Especially around Overijse, so I think that'll be key to watch.
And the roads are so narrow that the bunch is so big, the roads are so narrow that a lot of guys are going to be, unless they're in the first 10, they're going to be making big efforts, to get back. And we saw that in the 23 race as well.
Yeah, I think that is a very, very big point, and is underestimated, and you can't see on the profile there, because a lot of times you will go from roads that are 6 meters wide to like 2 meters. So that means that from down to 20th, you almost start from a standstill, and so those accelerations will wear a lot of guys out without knowing. So it's a race from the gun where you need to be top 20, and that will be very much underestimated by a lot of guys.
And not to mention what we saw that start in Antwerp. That for guys who are not used to racing in Belgium, that start from Antwerp with the road furniture and the turns and the traffic islands and we saw it yesterday, the number of crashes, the nerves, the speed of the race. That's also a bit of an unknown factor. We could lose favourites in the first 15 or 20 kilometres of the race.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of live comments. G'day to Kirsty, g'day to Wendy, and g'day to Janice and the old wheel wizard. He says exactly what you guys were talking about. Watch the under-23 road race. Can't remember a race with so many crashes, even in the neutral zone. And the hills are not going to decide the race. So the wheel wizard thinks there could be a bit of carnage. What do you think, Iffy?
Well, exactly as the guys were saying, it's a mixture of the road furniture early, but also from going from wide roads to narrow roads. And as the boys were just saying, you race into a corner on a really narrow road, and a lot of the rides, after about 20 places, you virtually come to a standstill, and then you've got to accelerate. So that will just split it apart. But, the riders like Caleb Ewan, they can handle that because they're just short enough, those climbs, for them to recover again. And it'll be interesting to see. It could very well come to a bunch finish.
Now, one name that hasn't been floated after the Vuelta, and we interviewed him and we said, mate, you're the red hot favourite. You haven't even picked him, Johnny. Is Magnus Cort?
Magnus Cort. That's what I was going to say. We had a couple of things at the hotel.
I have picked him. He's my third favourite. I've got.
You said to his face, John, that you're my favourite for the Worlds, and now he's third.
I'm not going to happen in 2 weeks. So I've got.
The thing is, Dan, that Magnus isn't with us at the moment, so he can't hear us.
Yeah, that's right.
I've got Sonny Colbrelli, my second favourite. Van der Poel and Magnus equal third. They are my.
Bills, you've raced with Magnus. How do you rate his chances?
Yeah, good. I think the Danes, the Belgians, and the Italians have the strongest teams on paper. And like I said earlier, the way that you race in Belgium, like listening to everybody talk here about Evenepoel and the comments that Eddie Merckx made about him not being a teammate, what does that mean? What does it mean not to be a teammate in a race like this? If Evenepoel follows a group, because the final here is going to start so early, like 100k to go, 80k to go, the race is going to be started. The final has started. So Evenepoel follows a move with 50k to go. That could be the winning move. Is he all of a sudden not a teammate? I don't know. Like you've got to have guys tagging the moves, and that's the position that the Danes are in with the depth of their team. They're going to have guys following those moves right from the start of the final. I don't know who they're going to back as their number one guy. It'd be very hard to pick at the moment in that team, I suspect. But I think Maggie's going to be one of those guys that's going to be able to tag those moves. And even if you're working for somebody else in the team, maybe he's working for Valgreen or something, or Asgreen, you being that teammate actually can create opportunities for yourself in races like this. So I think, Maggie is definitely a favourite, along with a lot of other guys who have that ability to race that final long.
Before we let you go, Jamie, Richard, and Bernard, who is your tips?
Well, I said Magnus Cort. Yeah, we had a couple of Danish guys here in the hotel earlier this week, and we were talking it through. And with his results in the Vuelta, I'd be backing Magnus. Yeah,
Bernard.
I think that it will be some sort of an outsider like a Peter Sagan, because I think the really big guys will look so much to each other that they will make a mistake somewhere and let a guy that is not so much being on the top rankings win. To me, it will be kind of an outsider or Peter Sagan.
And Richard?
Yeah, it's interesting what Sam was saying earlier about a team using decoding tactics, because that's exactly what Kasper Asgreen said after the time trial, that he hoped that the Danes went in with a flat hierarchy and not a single leader. Four riders. I think Mikel Honoré's been riding really well as well recently. I think Asgreen has got a good chance. He beat Van der Poel in a sprint at the end of the Tour of Flanders, didn't he? So he's such a strong rider that the distance and the toughness of the race, I think, will suit a rider like that. So I can see him winning.
Now, before we let you go, Jamie, we've got a special edition coming up of the deTour podcast on Tuesday. We're obviously going to be talking about your hotel, the Flandern Hotel up there in Belgium. What can you give the listeners a bit of a snippet for what we're going to be talking about on Tuesday?
Yeah, well, actually, we'll be joined by Phil on Tuesday because Phil, together with ProTouch in South Africa, has launched a foundation, the Phil Liggett Foundation, and we'll be partnering with Phil and ProTouch to launch what we call the African Riders Development Program. And I think the win by Gourmet yesterday was testament to what we see in terms of the talent in Africa. However, there's a big step up for a lot of these guys going from racing at local and national level to Pro Continental and then World Tour. We want to actually create a pipeline here at the Flandern Hotel to support that. So the hotel we opened on the 1st of July. We are a full 100% cycling focused hotel. We're located between Oudenaarde and Gerardsbergen, so we are smack in the middle of the route of the Ronde van Vlaanderen. So all the climbs like the Muur, we've got the Berendries, the Leger, all within 2 kilometers of here. We've actually created here at the hotel a great environment, a clubhouse. We have mezzanine levels, and we've built out actually a dormitory for the young African guys who will start coming over to us next year. So the plan is that we'll be inviting groups of 4 to 6 young guys from places like Eritrea, Ethiopia, Rwanda. We'll be hosting them here at the Flandern, giving them the chance to train and, of course, to race in Belgium, in Flanders, also in Wallonia, of course, very different style of racing, and also in France. So, yeah, we're very excited to actually be working with Phil and ProTouch to get it moving. And of course, we've also had an amazing 2 months, first opening month here at the hotel. Now with COVID sort of behind us, with people coming from all over the world. So, yeah, we'll be talking more about that on Tuesday.
Good stuff, mate. Well, we really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your morning to join us on the deTour. And we look forward, Richard, to giving us a plug on the cycling podcast, mate.
No problem.
All the best, fellas. And we'll check it again on Tuesday, Joe.
Yeah.
See you, Bernard.
Brilliant.
Bye.
See you guys. Take it easy.
All right.
Cheers. Fantastic to have those guys live from Belgium. We've got a bit of feedback on the audio. I don't know what's going on there.
Who's watching the show while they were doing it? Are you watching it if you're on YouTube as well?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
I haven't got the ability to do that, Sam.
Now, what we're going to do is take a quick break. After the break, we're going to be chatting with Donna Rae-Szalinski to talk about the women's preview. Bills, you can go back to watching the All Blacks.
Or you can stay with us.
Or you can stay with us. It's up to you, mate. Whatever you want to do.
It's half time at the moment.
Oh, well, if it's half time, we'll have a drinks break and we'll see you on the back end and we'll have Donna Rae-Szalinski. So stay tuned.
Look at this bike. You think it's just a bike, right? But it's not. It's a bike 374 people are looking at. This guy, this girl, them, all looking at it. People from here, there, and wherever this is. People that are looking for a bike. Or just a piece of it. Amateurs, semi-amateurs, and pro-amateurs. This guy wants this bike, but with this crank and these bars. This could be the perfect match. But not this one. This girl has a bike to sell, and thousands of people might purchase it. Eyes on Bikes help grow small businesses. His, hers, yours, and the latest data and insights help those businesses keep moving. We are the world's #1 bike marketplace, with over 500,000 products and 900 brands, where buyers and sellers are brought together in a place where a bike is never just a bike. BikeExchange, where the world buys, sells, learns, and rides.
Life is like a two-way street. It's about consideration and mutual respect. Roads are much the same. However you get around, walk, ride or drive, if we share our roads, we can all be safer. The Amy Gillett Foundation is Australia's peak cycling safety charity. Our mission is for safe cycling in Australia. Our vision is for 0 cyclist deaths. Over the last year, we've seen an enormous increase in people taking up cycling, whether it be for recreation, with the family, commuting, or even to start your own cycling career. We need to do more to make it safer for every cyclist. 20 cyclists every day are hospitalised and 1 cyclist is killed every 10 days on Australian roads. So, the next time you jump on your bike or hop in your car, remember to practice the 4 C's. Be courteous, calm, considerate and conscientious. Every cyclist death is preventable and we all deserve to get home safely. Please donate to help the Amy Gillett Foundation make the roads safer for you and for me.
Thanks again to BikeExchange and, of course, some great messages there from the Amy Gillett Foundation, beautifully voiced over by the voice of cycling, Phil Liggett. Now, we've lost Bills. The rugby's back on, so he's gone. And I think it might have something to do with Jane Walters' comment. She says, forget the men, the real race will be the women. So many top ladies who can put the Dutch under pressure. And by the way, Sam will owe me $20 when Alaphilippe doesn't make top 10. So he's obviously got some deck collectors coming after him there. But as we said before the break, we're going to be joined by Donna Rae-Szalinski, who was a superstar on the episode the other night. Donna, welcome to the show. And well done for reining Iffy in, because as we know, he cuts a lot of our guests off. He did it a couple of times, but I thought you did a good job.
Thank you, Dan. It was my pleasure. And it's lovely to see you, Phil.
Nice to see you, Donna. And in fact, Trishy's doing the breakfast here. Sends her love.
And the same back. And the same back.
Now, let's move our attention to the women's road race. And let's have a quick look at the profile. What are the major changes compared to the men's profile, Donna?
To be perfectly honest, Dan, I haven't looked at the men's race. I'm more interested in the women's, sorry.
Well, that's a good answer. That's a good answer. Let's just focus on the course itself. What are your first impressions of the course?
Oh, it's fantastic. It's a lovely, typical Belgian course. I love the finishing circuit. 15-kilometer circuit, 30 corners in that 15K circuit. As we saw with the under 23 race, it's you've got to be able to hold position. So bring it on. I can't wait. Belgium is my second home, well, after Australia and Canada. And
that makes you third.
Third. Well, Canada and Australia, you're right. I can't count, Phil. it's just breaking my heart not to be there.
Mine too.
Yes, I'm
But
sure.
Donna, while we're talking about women's cycling just a moment with a world championship, it's not that long ago when the furthest you could race women's races was 75 kilometers. And now look at this, 157 kilometers for the world championship. How times have changed.
Oh, and the standard of women's racing, the depth of the racing is just incredible. The racing is on, it's on from the start. It's just riveting to watch. Yeah, it's come a long way, Phil.
It has. Yeah.
No, we had Chloe Hosking on the show a couple of weeks ago, and there's another rider that John said, you are my favourite for the road race for the World Championships. Is that still holding water, John? You still reckon Chloe's going to get the chocolates?
She's not my red hot favourite.
You've done it again.
No, I would love to see her win. And, she's come back fantastically. And give her a sniff. They close it down, but I just think the Dutch will make it too hard. It's just too strong, and I think it'll be one of the Dutch. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go with a little bit of an outside. I'm going to go for Demi Vollering. I reckon she could win it.
Wow!
You're laughing, Donna. Is Iffy way off or what?
This just shows you how well I know Iffy. She's my choice as well.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, she's just been amazing. I have so much respect for what she's capable of doing. But I also have to say that you've got to go for either like a Belgian, like Lotto Kopecky, who's been outstanding this year as well. My heart bled for her in Tokyo. So I reckon she's going to, she's another one of my choices.
The Dutch are obviously the team to beat. They're all ex-world champions. I mean, the trouble is they might get themselves a little bit confused, as they did in the Olympic Games road race, and they finished second thinking they'd won.
Phil, do you think they're going to make that same mistake?
Well, the trouble is they're all so good, and if you're going to pick one from them, I'd go for Chantal Black. Might be the one to win the title. I don't know. But I think Van Vleuten appears to be going off her form just at the moment. We'll see. Because when she won the world title in Harrogate, that was the finest ride I've ever seen done by a woman cyclist. 100 kilometres alone in the lead in atrocious conditions over the North Yorkshire moors. It was the most incredible race. And she is a very, very much an incredible bike rider. But either way, they are the team to beat, I think. But they know it too, so people are going to keep them heavily marked. There's plenty of room for surprise here.
So Donna, how do the Aussies have to race this one?
They need to cover the moves. They need to be there and be present. And then they also need to make sure that Chloe doesn't have to do anything till the end if it does end up being that sort of bunch finish.
Iffy?
Yeah, exactly. Look, we've got to put Spratty in there with a chance. I mean, she's been so good in the World Championships over the last couple of years with second and third placings, but she hasn't got the form of this year of those previous years. So I don't believe that Amanda can win. So I think they really have to. The chance for Australia to win this is with Chloe. And so they'll need to negate everything and hope that comes back to her. It won't be a huge bunch finish. And when I talked about a bunch finish in the men's, it's not going to be a huge bunch. But that's our one hope of winning that world title is for it to be a small bunch and Chloe still be there. And then she can outsprint everybody.
Do you think, Donna, going in, knowing that there's so many other super teams out there that, you sort of caught between, do we ride aggressive or do we ride sort of reactive? Because if you are worried and they get in your head, that can obviously affect your results as well.
I would much rather be aggressive. Like if you're just going to follow moves, then you're letting everybody else dictate. I would rather be going on the front foot and trying to create some moves personally.
Yep. Iffy?
We're lucky.
I was just going to say that. Sorry, Chloe.
I'm just going to say we have enough riders. We've got a full qualified 7 riders. So go for it.
Iffy?
Yeah, well, that's how you want to race, but I don't think that's going to deliver the Australian result that they want. The Italians also are pretty strong because you've got Bastianelli, who was world champion back in 2007, and then Elisa Balsamo, and then Longo Borghini as well. Elisa Longo Borghini, who is very aggressive cyclist. I love to watch her race. She'll be one who could very well get up the road. So it's going to be a great bike race.
And it won't be a bunch sprint. It will not be a bunch sprint. So I'm sorry, but Hoskin won't win this one. The course itself will decide the champions. We saw the way the juniors and the under-23s attacked this course. There's always somebody thinking they can do it. And the run into the finish has got those 3 climbs. One's the second to last climb is the hardest. Then you've got the uphill just before the finishing line. I cannot see it'll be a bunch sprint. It will produce a real strong world champion for sure. And it doesn't have to be the grand favourite. It's the man or the woman who makes the move at exactly the right moment that there's no response and they win alone, as they did with the under-23 men yesterday.
But he only won a
too
by 2
hard.
seconds.
The course is too hard. Yes, he did.
And then there was a bunch of 40 bike riders. So that was nearly a bunch sprint, Phil.
Was it 40 bike riders in that one?
Yeah, it was 36, I think there was.
Well, there you are. You're exaggerating again.
Told you a million times not to exaggerate, Phil.
But Donna, do you find that the Worlds is notorious for dishing up surprise results? I mean, like the year Rachel Neyland ran second, I mean, that wasn't expected. But, anything can happen on the day when it's a race at the end of the season.
That actually might be advice. That actually might be advice I'd give to my bike riders, that the favorite rarely wins.
So there you go. Yeah, exactly. So, Donna, what would be your final advice to the women's team before they tape up, which isn't too far away?
That you have to ride good position to be there. You have to always back each other, to stick with the plan, and to be brave and smart. Like when I talk about I would go on the attack, I wouldn't go stupidly on the attack, but I just don't like going into a race with a mindset of we're just going to wait and see what everybody else does.
Well, the guys earlier were talking about how narrow the roads are on this circuit, and if it splits, you can't make position on these climbs.
Well, you're not going to help yourself if you're not in good position or most of the time, are you? So you've got to, that's got to be your mindset to try and ride as good position as you can for as much as you can.
Absolutely. I think you've got to ride the race in the first 30 because this is the sort of nature of the course. And avoid the accidents, of course, which will come. There's no choice. I mean, Belgium is a superb country. It's made for bike racing, but boy, it's always tense from the minute the race starts. Never mind the finish being 4.5 hours away. It's tense from the first kilometer because you can lose your race in those first kilometers. You've got to be right in the action from the gun.
Yeah. So who's your final tips for the women's road race? Who was your tip again, Johnny?
Vollering.
And Donnie, you're the same?
Oh, I think she's one of them. I also like a lot of Pecky. And what about Corinne Rivera?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm not sure she'll like the course. I don't know. What about Lizzie Deignan? I mean, she's aiming for her 3rd peak of the year and she's riding very well. And she's fallen in love with Patrick Lefevre. So there should be a good result there as she tries to prove him completely wrong with his comments about women's teams. And she's very aggressive and she's really switched on. And she will monitor the moves, but I think she won't have the great backup from the team. So we'll see.
Well, there's a lot of talk about Tony
I'm
Martin's
going for
last
Chantal
race.
Black.
There's a lot of talk about Tony Martin's last race. What about Vanderbreggen? Is this going to be her last race, Donna?
It is. It is.
Yes, it is.
it is her last race. And then she will be doing de-essing, as will Jolien Dore is going to be de-essing next year. So it's her last race.
Have they ever had a world champion that takes the jersey but then retires and they don't wear it the next year? You know this, Phil, wouldn't you?
No. Well, Paul Sherwin retired after he won the British National Road Race Championship and started to work with me. He never rode his year as world champion. I can't think of one offhand, I'll be honest. A world champion. I can't think of one. I'm sure there must have been, sure. I can't think of one.
Yeah. Should be like the Tour de France, where if you don't wear the jersey, you can pass it down.
I think of a million flops after they win the world title and never win a race wearing the jersey.
Yeah.
But, that wasn't the case for Julien Alaphilippe, as I said earlier. He's a fantastic world champion. He was.
He has been. He has been.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And could become as green from tomorrow night.
Jane wants to say, what about name Fisher Black? Watch out for the Kiwis. Yeah?
Yeah, she's good. I got to tell you, when I was doing a little bit of research yesterday.
Look out.
Good heavens, you're taking this detour very seriously.
Yeah. I hope it wasn't Wikipedia again.
No, a couple of days ago, actually, when I was doing it, before I had the three top women of cycling on our podcast, I was going through all the teams. I was absolutely staggered by how many Kiwis there are racing at the top level in women's cycling now. It actually really surprised me just how many there were.
Yeah.
There you go.
Which is good to see.
That's good research, John.
Yeah.
Solid.
So speaking of the other night, how cool is it that we now have, after we discussed it, there will be recognition of the world's top under 23 next year.
Power of the deTour. Exactly right, Donna.
Predicted.
I hadn't heard the announcement. Was this decided at the UCI meeting yesterday?
Yeah, so it's not a separate race, Phil, unfortunately. They're going to the top ranked under 23 in the elite road race.
Right.
So there's lots we don't know yet. It's going to be really interesting to see if they allow more starters, which I can't see them happening, or whether it's just going to be who the best under 23 is in the race. It'll have great implications for the, potentially for the way some teams are selected.
Well, Sarah Ganti's comments she made, she's absolutely right. She was that it's a disgrace in modern days that we don't have an under 23 world title for women. I mean, just can't happen. So.
Well, we said the same, Phil, and then straight away they listened to us, and it's happened.
It's brilliant.
They must have heard me say I was promised it last decade, and it still hasn't happened. You reckon they were listening?
Yeah.
It took them a while.
I can remember. So Donna's, I have to give her age up a little bit here, but Donna and I raced against each other back in the 80s. It was the end of my career and the beginning of hers, I suppose. But we raced against each other in a few races around the Geelong region. And together we were a great team. So we just did it again.
Yeah.
Wow.
There you go. Well, we have had a few representatives for the UCI on here, and we've given them a hard time every time they've been on the show. So they're definitely taking notice for sure. What were we going to say, Donna?
I was just going to say, and John and I still ride together occasionally around the crit course in Geelong.
We do. Yeah.
Yep.
As Donna is lapping me, she stops and has a bit of a talk, and then she takes off again. That's not how it goes.
Good stuff. Well, it should be fantastic. I'm going to stick with Chloe Hosking. I know you don't think she's going to do it, Phil, but I'm a man of word. I said she was a favourite to her face, and I stick to it. So I'm going to back her all in. Yeah, back her all in.
It's a tough course for her to conquer, I must confess, but it will be a wonderful result. I agree.
It's going to be fantastic. Anything you want to add before we wrap things up, Iffy?
Look, I'm just really looking forward to tonight, and I think it's been a wonderful race. And anything like the under 23s, well, I think the juniors are just about to finish, actually.
Will Wizard says last 4K of the junior road race is going to be Great Britain or USA win.
Oh, my goodness. My goodness.
Can I say one thing before we leave?
Magnus Backsted's daughter is one of the favourites.
There you go.
Well, Maggie, of course, was a great bike rider. He still is the only Swedish rider to win a stage of the Tour de France. But I'll tell you what, his daughters are sensational bike riders. And the medal already at the World. So
Great Britain won.
Maggie will be beside himself. He's so proud.
GB won. So I wonder who it was.
Well, I hope it was
I'll have a
Baxter.
look. Yeah. I'll
There you
see
go.
if it pops up. I'll see if it
John's
pops
on the wonderful thing, is he? A man in Australia telling somebody in London who won just over the road in Belgium.
That's right.
I know. The power
Good
of
stuff.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Donna?
I just have to ask to say this one thing. So, John Trevorrow, I have spent a career as a coach and a DS telling my athletes that talk with your legs, not with your mouth. And before a race, let your legs do your talking. And for just for you, this is the first time ever that I have gone and made predictions about riders before a race in public.
Okay.
Just for you.
That's great.
We are breaking news here on the deTour. This is fantastic.
Everyone, Zoe Baxter is the new world champion.
Well, there you
She
go.
won.
She got second in the TT.
That's amazing.
I would have loved to
She
listen to
did,
the commentary.
and she's won the world championship.
Magnus was commentating for one of the TV stations. I wonder how he
he probably was on. He probably was. Yes, he probably was.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness me. Oh dear.
Oh.
Are you fine gentlemen aware that the average speed for the winning under 19 female in the time trial the other day was 46 kilometers an hour?
It's amazing.
Jeez.
I got up to that last week myself. Downhill.
Yes.
Downhill.
So I don't ride, Donna. So is that good? Is that fast?
He didn't hold it
Sounds
for an
fast.
hour though.
That sounds really fast. Yeah,
That's fantastic.
that's good.
No, it's the world is changing fast, I'll tell you. But that's I was so happy for Magnus Baxter. He lives in Wales here.
Nice guy.
Because I'll tell you a little story about Magnus and his wife.
Go for it.
Because when John, you organised the Mount Buller Cup all those years ago, and we finished on top of Mount Buller, I was given an extremely nice room, and it was like a penthouse in the hotel overlooking the top of Mount Buller. And Maggie just met his girlfriend, and he asked me if I'd move out just for one night of my lovely suite, which I did, and he married that girl, and he's had two great daughters.
So if it wasn't for you, Phil,
and now one's a world champion.
They wouldn't have had the world champion.
Nah,
there you go.
Me. It was the summer of cycling. It was the Bay Crits, mate.
John organised it.
They met at the Bay Crits. And this is a true story. When they had their first child, Magnus sent me a message. Said, "Thanks, Johnny. If it wasn't for you, we never would have met."
Well, there you go.
It's
we need to get the Bay Crits back, and you could team up with Married at First Sight, and you could do something.
I've got to tell you, Dan. I've got to tell you something. On Wednesday this week, I went to a lunch of old-time cyclists. And there was a lot of them, and you can't believe this, but a guy I hadn't seen for years came up to me, and I couldn't remember his name, and he said, "Do you remember me?" I said, "No." He said, "I met you in Williamstown at the Bay Crits Classic."
Oh,
honestly, that's what I said. I don't believe this. I said, I'm just going to have to tell John Trevorrow.
I love it. Oh, isn't that great?
I thought you were going to say, I'm your accountant, Phil.
oh, God, no. Don't mention that.
I just before we went on air, I got a call from Donnie Allen, who we had on the podcast a few weeks back, great legend. And he said, look, I've just been talking to Steele Bishop. Steele was sensational world pursuit champion, whatever. And he said, Steele wants to come over. He lives in the West next year, COVID allowing. And he wants to catch us all together. We're going to celebrate. It's 50 years since the Munich Olympics. So I'm going to get in touch with all of the bike riders. There's Danny Clark, there's Johnny Nicholson, Remo Sassonetti, Donnie Allen, of course, and Clyde Sefton, Johnny Billsma. So Phil Sawyer, we're going to get the whole mob together. So I'll twist Jerry's arm. We'll have it at the Prince, or maybe we'll even come up to Nagambie, have it at the beautiful Mitchelton Hotel. But
Well, I'm sure you'll milk a deal, John. There'll be something that you'll be cooking for sure. Thanks for tuning in, guys. YouTube.com/the deTour podcast. Thanks for joining us, Donna. Thanks to our guests, Richard Moore, Bernard Moorman, Jamie Anderson, and of course, Sam Bewley. Tommy Hogan, great show, great host and guests. Thanks, Tommy, and thanks for all the comments. And we'll see you again on Tuesday night for a special edition of the deTour podcast. Phil will be there, if he'll be there, and we'll be chatting with the guys at the Flannery Hotel. It's going to be a great episode. Stay tuned for that. And all the best to everyone racing the World Championships. Go the Aussies. We'll see you on Tuesday.
Have a super weekend, everyone. It'll be real
Take it
fun.
easy. And who? Before we go, Johnny, who are you tipping in the AFL? Demons or the Dogs?
I'll go for the Demons. It'd be nice to see after all those years. I'm just devastated. The Storm just got rolled.
Oh,
I've never heard of the
friends are
Demons
joking.
or the Dogs, and I
No,
thought I knew
no.
AFL. So what's their real names?
Melbourne Demons and the Western Bulldogs or the Footscray Bulldogs.
Oh, the Bulldogs. Oh, the Bulldogs. Okay. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Who do you reckon's going to win, Phil?
I don't know. It'll be one of the two.
All right. See you on Tuesday, guys.
This is the winning ride of the Tour de France.